Letting people in through the lobby, so we'll begin in about a minute's time. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I can see that we'll have more people joining us as the clock ticks past 1 o'clock, but welcome to you all. My name is Laura Cook, and I'm a lecturer in the School of Social Work and director of the Centre for Research on Children and Families here at the UEA. So a very warm welcome to our second research seminar of the term. We have a full programme this term of research seminars, and I'll ask Carly to put the link to those in the chat so you can see our menu of options for this term. Today, I'm delighted to introduce our guest speaker, Dr. Olga Sovenko. Dr. Sovenko joined UEA as a research fellow via a British Academy grant in 2023 and has been an honorary lecturer in art, media and American studies since 2022. She also works in Kiev, Ukraine as a lecturer and a scientist in theoretical and empirical sociology and media studies. Olga's key research interests include gender studies, media studies, and socio-cultural analysis, particularly in relation to values, meanings, norms, and social practices. Olga's been a manager, methodologist, and coordinator of local and international research projects in Ukraine, working with organisations including the Internews Network, United Nations Development Programme, and the Society for International Cooperation. So we're delighted to welcome Olga to our session today. Today, she's going to be presenting on family life, changes in circumstances, living conditions, and roles in Ukrainian families during the war in Ukraine. So she's going to talk for between 40 and 45 minutes today, and there'll be time at the end for questions. So please do feel free to use the chat function to ask any questions or add any reflections for Olga that you would like us to pick up towards the end of the session. Just to let you know that the session will be recorded today, so we'll be taking a recording of the presentation, but we will switch it off towards the Q&A so people won't be filmed. So other than that, welcome Olga, and handing over to you.
Thank you so much, Laura, and I'm so honored to be here. It's really my first big presentation inside of the UEA, and it's my pleasure to see the other colleagues here. And I wanted also to inform you that this research was conducted with the Gradus research company in Ukraine, and we have now the representatives of this company here. It's Taisia, she is a researcher and analyst. Nice to meet you here. And I hope, hello, we'll have some questions to discuss, and probably Taisia also could help me if there is something that is connected with the data processing, because the company also has organized and developed this beautiful presentation for me. And I will say a couple of words about this research. So this survey is a part of the 2-year research project supported by the British Academy. And the project name is Changing Identities and Social Roles in the Families of Ukrainian Refugees in 2022-2024, with the common research task to reveal how the crucial change in living circumstances have changed the family life, family structure, values, priorities, roles, and identities, with a connection to social interests, practices, and other social institutions inside and outside of Ukraine. And the project will include 3 main parts. So this is a survey that is going to be presented today. And the other 2 parts are the series of in-depth interviews that I'm going to have with about 30 women from Ukraine and the hosting European countries. There would be refugee women, also who have children, who have families, We'll discuss their identities, social roles, family life, and so on. And there's going to be also the survey. I hope to develop this also very soon. With the mapping of identities during the 2 years of the full-scale war period for the women, we hope to have about 600 participants from Ukraine and the hosting European countries. So this survey, it was the self-completion of questionnaires in a mobile application, and respondents were recruited from among the graduates panel. In order to participate in the survey, respondents installed the application or followed a web link, read the user agreement, privacy policy, and agreed to their terms. The call to participate in the survey was directed to women in Ukraine without age restrictions, and the self-administered questionnaire allowed us to get meaningful answers to all the questions, to compare the target audience, and to find out what changes had taken place in the lives of the respondents during the full-scale war. We had a target group of women who have children under the age of 18 and currently reside in Ukraine, lived together with their children and partner, formal or informal marriage before the war. We have 3 target groups. The first is internally displaced people living with their families, and probably they are not living with their husbands or partners now, but they have children under 18 and so on. The target group 2 that did not travel abroad and they have their husbands or partners who are serving now or have served during the full-scale war. And the target group 3, those people who have traveled abroad and returned to Ukraine. The number of effective interviews you can see here is 356. So there were 100 of respondents from target group 1 and target group 3, and 156 respondents, female respondents from target group 2. And the field work was conducted in August this year. You can see the sample structure, and we should say that all the categories are represented, and it was a random selection. So we have all the age categories of women who have children. We have all the regions, macro regions of Ukraine presented here, and all the types of the settlements. Well, what should we say about our sample? We also have a different level of education in those 3 groups. And we can find that, for example, the IDPs, internally displaced people, have maybe less number of those who have higher education complete, and they have secondary technical education more than others in those 2 groups. And we have, for example, the highest level of higher education in the 3rd group. Here you can see it is marked with special marks, statistically significantly higher or lower for the target audience compared to the average. And that would be the same on the other slides. So what can we say about their employment? We were asking what was their job or what was their occupation at the beginning of the full-scale war and now. Among the target group 1, we can see that most of them lost, not most, but many of them lost their jobs. So there are 17% more unemployed people than there were. Also, we can see that the target group 2 were most employed. So there were 63 of them employed, had a job. And they are 50% have a job now, more than others in other target groups. Also, we can say and mention that among those who returned from abroad, there is the biggest group who are keeping or were keeping the household. So it's only almost 1/3 of respondents for now. And here we have the main areas of their employment at the beginning of the full-scale war and now. We can see only some tendencies here. We didn't analyze them much because, of course, the economic situation is changing and the labor market is changing. We can only see that the trade and sales management is a very popular area of employment. Then what can we say about displacement of our respondents? So the target group first, it's understandable that they have been displaced, so they are internally displaced people, and they have not returned to their homes for now. Among the target group 2, wives of military personnel, we have those who have not moved at all, so they are staying at their homes, inhabitants, and we have those who left their permanent place of residence and have returned. And those who returned from abroad, only 4% have not returned to their homes. We asked about directions of displacement, and we can see this picture that among the IDPs, they moved to another region of Ukraine, or they moved within the region of their settlement, and they have not moved abroad. Target group 2, we can see they moved to another region or moved within their region, but they were only 44 people, so that is the picture. And those who moved abroad, they also tried to stay in different parts of Ukraine, so that is not like their decision to move abroad at once. Reasons for relocation, why did the people move? Of course, there could be many, but the most popular are the fear of a threat to their life and life of loved ones, the concern for the health and well-being of children, desire to organize a normal life for the child or children in a safe place. And you can see that, for example, target group 3 are talking about this reason, like 60% of people have chosen this option, not so many like IDP. And attack of enemy forces, it's also a big reason, but it is the less number of people who have chosen this option among the target group 3. So 37%, as you see. Also, we have a very dramatic reason, like a loss and damage to their homes. And of course, IDPs have this more than other categories, like 27% of people have lost their homes, and destruction of infrastructure and environmental pollution due to military operations. 23% of IDPs have mentioned this option. What can we say about those people who moved abroad and returned home? We were asking about the duration of their staying abroad because we need to understand how long they experienced a different life. And we cannot say that they were staying abroad for a long time. We have 35% of people who stayed abroad less than 3 months and even less than 1 month. And you can see that other people here, 30% stayed less than half of a year. And then we have the other people who stayed longer. The most popular countries are Poland and Germany. Reasons for returning to Ukraine. It was my surprise because many of people said missing home, and that was like the most popular reason, because I was thinking it would be connected with economic questions or something else. The other reason, the most popular one, is returning to their husbands and partners. Also, they return to restore their families and so on. And only 7% people say that did not find a job abroad, and that was one of the reasons to come back home. Circumstances of living in a new place. We asked the group of IDPs, what are they doing now, how are they settling in, and most of them are renting housing. So they do not have their own houses as they were moved, and most people live in expanded families with their, not most, but 1/4 of those who answered are living with their friends, acquaintances, or other relatives. And even some of them still live in temporary housing. So there could be social housing, accommodations, or shelters. What can we say about family composition? So we only selected those women who have children, and they all have children of different age groups with whom they lived at the beginning of the full-scale war and now. And also, the mandatory feature was to have a partner or a husband and to live with him. So we can see this line that all of our respondents were living with a husband or a partner. And you can see the dynamics that 69% of IDPs are living with their partners now, 67% of the wives of military personnel, and 83% of those who returned from abroad. So that is a very different number. We can see like this tendency how families are being separated. Also, there is a change according to our data uh, who are living with the children, with adult children, or with children from another family, with a child or children of their relatives, and so on. So there is a kind of dynamics here. And what is meaningful, I can say that many of wives of military personnel, it's 44%, were living with their parents or parents-in-law and are still living. So this is the most percentage from other groups who are still living with the other members of the family, so with extended family, and who are serving or who was serving in their families. Among the target group 1, they can mention that 48% of them are mentioning that somebody in their family are serving or were serving in military service. Among those who answered that they have those members of families, 54% of them have their husband or partner who is serving. Others have siblings, parents, and even children and other relatives. Here we also have, of course, 100% because it was mandatory for this target group. And siblings, 24% of their families have siblings who are serving. And here we also have the pretty high percentage of family members who are serving, it's 44%. And of course, they are husbands or partners, siblings. And you can see the high percentage of other relatives, 32% of other relatives who are serving. And now we could discuss the changes in personal life, physical and mental health. So as for the marital status, at the beginning of the war, 96% of IDPs were married. Now 5% of them got divorced. And here we can see the kind of positive dynamics among the target group 2 and target group 3. So the most negative dynamics is in target group 1. And here we also pay attention to those marriages who are very fresh, so up to a year. So they have become married during this year, or from 1 year to 3 years, also like just married. And some of them have the pretty long period of marriage. About the changes in their personal life, we were asking mostly about their relationship with the partners. So The most popular change is that this time made us become more harmonious and support each other more. And the group who are mentioning this reason most are target group 3, so those who returned from abroad. They became more harmonious with their partners. Also, we can say that they mention more than others that they felt that their partners do a lot for their family. So that is the tendency we can discuss. Also, I can say that there is a line about our relationship ended, and that is 6% of IDPs who have chosen this change in their life. Satisfaction with the relationship in marriage and partnership. We also can talk about target group 3 who returned from abroad, and they are the most satisfied with their relationships in marriage and with their family life. And now we can talk a little bit about state of physical health and mental health of our participants. So, of course, this circumstance of war and different threats have made all the population of Ukraine, and this tendency is represented here, less healthy. So the question was to self-assess their state, their health condition at the beginning of the war and now. And they could put numbers from 0 to 10. That means that 0, I had lots of problems with my health, and 10 means I didn't have any problems with my health. And here we can see yellow marking the best health condition. And the tendency is that it is reduced twice. So the level of the number of those people who had the best health condition has decreased twice. But still, in target group 3, we can say that they had and are still having the best level of physical health, according to their self-assessment, of course. And I would like to pay your attention to this level that is marked with red. That is the worst level of health condition now. So it's 12% among the target group 1 and target group 3, and it is 15% among target group 2. So I think it's meaningful. And the state of mental health shows us almost the same picture. And the difference is that from the start, people self-estimate their mental health worse. So there are less people who had the best mental health and are having the high level of mental health. And there is a great number of people who are having lots of problems with their mental health for now. So we can see 31% from the group target group 1 and 30% from the audience 3 and 27% here. I think it's a very, very significant result, and we also can find the other data, I think the monitorings in Ukraine that show how the mental health of Ukrainians have got worse. Okay, we can also talk about changes in the financial level of the family. And here are some tendencies. The best level of financial situation is marked with yellow. That means that respondents have self-estimated their financial level of income above average and average. And if we are talking about uniting those two marks, then we can say that definitely the target group 3 have had the best level of income before the war, and now they are self-estimating themselves like their level of income decreased so much. So it is only 43% of average income for now. And we can see that the most stable group is the wives of military personnel. So they had 55 plus 8 number of people who had average and above average income. And now they are 51 plus 3, so they are remaining almost at the same level of income. But if we ask about expenditure of income on food and utilities, the picture is a little bit different, but the target group 2 remains the same. So they spend less than 50% of their family income on utilities. And some of them, like 8%, spend even less than 25% of family income on food and utilities. And of course, we can talk about IDPs that have a much worse situation. They spend from 50 to 75% of family income on food and utilities. And 1/4 of them are spending more than 75 or almost all of the family income on food and utilities. And of course, we include rent and telephone here. Well, what about destruction or damage of the main housing during the war? Of course, it was expected that among the IDPs they have more damage of their housing. And here we have those results that 11% of our respondents have their homes completely destroyed, 24% have their housing partially destroyed or damaged. And we have those who are not sure because some of the territories are under occupation. Now we have the big part of the survey dedicated to the life changes and dreams, which we put into open questions so people can talk freely with their own words about what has changed. And then it was aggregated to the categories. And those categories show us a very interesting picture of difference among those groups. For example, the changes in circumstances such as relocation and just the war that has changed everything is mentioned by 38% of internally displaced people. The other difference is, for example, that target group 3 are mentioning changes in emotional state more than others. So 24% of them we're talking about this change. And 23% of wives of military personnel were mentioning changes in personal life. So I think that this picture is very interesting to analyze for the future. Also, a significant change, a significant difference is between the value component. So rethinking of values is the category that was mentioned more by target group 3. And I think it's very meaningful that people who returned from abroad have experienced some different life and have meaningfully changed their values. They reconsidered values, their interests, priorities, and they changed their attitudes and so on. Here also we can see the most change in relationships with family, friends, and attitudes towards them have been mentioned by the IDPs. So 15% of them said so. And change in roles in the family and in the life was mentioned by 10% of those who returned from abroad. And we have 6% of IDPs who say that they had financial and property losses, and that was the biggest change in their life during the last 2 years. We also were asking about their dreams and plans, and of course, we had a big number of answers. Then, if we aggregate the answers to the categories, we have this picture. The people, the respondents who mentioned the end of the war as their dream the most are among the target audience too. And that is my also surprise, my wonder, because I was thinking that the internally displaced people would talk about the finish, the end of the war more. And here we have also the almost 1/3 of IDPs who want to improve their life circumstances. So that is the number that is bigger than in other groups. And they are also dreaming about returning to normal life. So that has different meanings for them. And 17% of those who returned from abroad are thinking and dreaming about better future. Well, now it's a very important part about changes in the family decision-making process because it was a great interest of me to learn how the family roles have changed, and we can say that the target group 2 are acknowledging those females respondents are acknowledging that their role has grown in different aspects and categories. For example, if we talk about decision making on family financial issues, they are females who are thinking that 54% of them have their roles increased. Now we can see the same picture that 62% of wives of military personnel are thinking about their role as increased in decision making on raising children. And here they have also the most percentage if we are talking about their role in family life planning. And then we were asking about raising children and the authorities of fathers, mothers, and other relatives. And we can also find this tendency, like the target group 2 is mentioning that their role has increased. Even the role of fathers in their families has increased the most. The role of mothers, only we can find this difference between the target group 1 and target group 2, that they have their role increased among the children over 13. And here we have the question about the authority of grandparents in raising children. And we can say that also those families have the biggest number of the increased role of their parents or of grandparents towards raising children of both ages, so children under 12 and children over 13. And we also had a question about other family members in raising children. So we have the same little bit the same tendency, like in target group 2, they consider that the role of other relatives has increased more than in other groups of respondents. Well, I have skipped all the main slides, and that is not the all information that we got from our survey, but still, I would like to make the conclusions or the summary with describing each group, maybe in other words, or make the conclusion how we can describe them according to our data for now. And then I hope we could find the interest to discuss everything that you have heard. So what can we say about internally displaced people? They have lost their jobs and became unemployed more than others. They have damage and loss of their homes more than others in our survey. They are living in the rented accommodation and at friends' or relatives' homes. They got divorced within the full-scale war period more often. There were only 5 of them, but that is still more than others. They have tension and stress in the relationship with the partner more than others. They are satisfied with the relationships in marriage and family life less than other categories. They have below average and low family income now more than others, and they are mentioning changes in life circumstances and changing in family relationship, their attitudes towards relatives, friends more than others. They are dreaming about improving the life circumstances and return to normal life more than others. Their authority in raising older children has increased more than in other target groups. I mean, the authorities of mothers. And the authority of grandparents in their families decreased significantly in raising both age categories of children. But I think that is because they are just not living with their grandparents now. So, about the target group 3, wives of military personnel, we can say the following. They had jobs and are currently employed more than others. They are having children under 6 years old more than others. They were living and are living with their parents-in-law more than other target groups. They have the bigger percentage of the worst level of physical health now. They managed to maintain the average and above average level of income more than other target groups, and they are more than others spending less than 50% of their income on food and utilities now. They are mentioning changes in personal life more than others. They are dreaming about the end of the war and reuniting of the family more than others. Their role in decision making on financial issues in the family and raising children and family life planning has increased more than in other target groups. The authority of fathers in raising children has increased in their families more than in other target groups for both of age categories. The authority of grandparents in their families increased significantly in raising both age categories of children because they are the most staying with their grandparents, with their parents and grandparents of their children for now. And women who return to Ukraine, they have the biggest percentage of higher education level. They were keeping and are keeping a household more than others. They are living with their husbands, partners more than other target groups. They are declaring the most meaningful reasons of returning home, such as missing home, returning to their husbands, partners. They became more harmonious with their partners, felt that their partner does a lot for the family more than others. They are the most satisfied with their relationships in marriage and family life. They were having and are having the best level of physical and mental health now. And they are mentioning changes in emotional state more than others. They have experienced the most value shift, like 23% of them among the target groups. And they are dreaming about better life more than others. They less than others recognize the growth of their role in decision making on financial issues in the family and raising children, and the family life planning also. Well, I would like to thank you for your attention, and I've got some discussion questions, but I think we'll first get your questions if you have them.
Okay, thank you very much, Olga, for that really powerful